I just knew that with what Jan teaches and with my ability in the field that we could take people if they wanted it, and at the end of 6 months they'd be able to go and grow if they wanted to. For growing system to really work, for a farm or a garden to function efficiently, I think everybody's kind of got to buy into the way that particular manager does it.
Yeah, it's a lot of territory.
Yeah, it's just like, there are a lot of ways that we could do this. This is the way I do it. This is the way we do it here. And sometimes when you have people who have a lot of experience, it's very difficult for them to let go. And it was very difficult for me, and it's a testament to Jan that he basically weathered all my opinions. And it's been interesting for me. This is my 3rd season here.
Wow. And
watching how gradually I come to understand why he does things the way he does them. And, you know, obviously there's still things I do differently, but I have a lot of his methods I've adopted, and it reminds me of Alan Chadwick, who was the guy who brought French intensive gardening to North America. He has a quote that I love, and it's a long quote, but at the end of it he says, contrary to popular belief, it is not the gardener who makes the garden, but the garden who makes the gardener. And what that says,
the garden who makes the gardener?
Yes.
Wow.
What that says to me is you can't really go and impose your will on the land. If you're really going to work, especially in the way we're trying to grow, kind of within what the land has to offer, the land is going to dictate how you work with it. And that's really, for us, what part of our practice is building that sensitivity to the plants, really to the land through the plants, so that rather than kind of trying to dominate the system, we're actually trying to help nurture it and help it become more abundant.
That's cool. It's a similar thing in rock climbing where there's like 2 schools. So one school is like you try and conquer the rock or the mountain or whatever, and then there's a much smaller school that is more about, like, I don't know if you know climbers, but like Chris Sharma, one of the greatest, talks about, and he actually is Red Trunk Rinpoche and all that, he talks about you kind of, you know, it's more contemplative. You kind of pay attention to the rock and you learn from it, and it's much more sensitive, and it's more of a relationship instead of this sort of aggressive macho thing, and macho is fine, but it's sort of built on a little bit of kind of hype or fear or something.
A need to dominate.
Yeah, instead of relaxing and kind of, which ultimately you need. Because like probably like here you need to, and that's so cool that you can learn from the land in that way.
Well, yeah, it's inevitable when you work very closely. There's going to be communication happening.
Yeah.
But it's you know, it's how you do it becomes a metaphor for how you do everything.
Yeah.
And one of the nice things about working here is that you have the space to relax. I mean, I think of a quote where, I can't remember the teacher, but he's saying that if, you know, basically if you kind of do it the macho way and nose to the grindstone and push, 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 you might get some stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
But if you relax truly and deeply, you can do anything. And, you know, we think about relaxation like, you know, like it's like laying on the couch and eating potato chips. I mean, Trumpet talks about this all the time.
Yeah.
A lot of teachers do. It's very different, right? And
that's more flopping.
That's more flopping.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, we can relax that sort of goal-oriented thing because that's exhausting. It's exhausting to work all the time with this like idea of what we have to achieve. Without that sort of mental stress, there's so much more ability to just kind of pay close attention to what I'm doing right now. And what I find is then I get a lot more done. I have a lot more energy, and it's much more pleasurable. And it was very difficult for me to learn that, because it's a bit of a leap of faith to kind of have faith in the process rather than just keeping your eye on the result. And in this place where honestly, like, if I fail, it's okay. And I think it's okay I think it was okay in my previous life too, but I didn't realize that. And it took a place like here, and took working with someone with Jan. I mean, what have I really learned from Jan? I've learned an idea of spaciousness in management, not just of other people, but of myself. Just give myself a lot of space. You know?
So he does that as a...
He does that. He doesn't, you know,
or something.
Rarely calls you out on anything. Just has faith that, like, I was kind of a pill to work for. I got good results, but I was a taskmaster. And just working with Jan and how he has worked with me, the way I work with people who work under me, or whatever you want to say, has been influenced a lot by his relationship with me, where it's having faith that Rinpoche says gentleness is the best whip, and really having faith that that's true.
Gentleness is the best whip?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's hard. That's a hard one to believe.
Yeah.
You know, because when someone comes late, you know, or is like, kind of, they're getting in this pattern, there's real desire to crack the whip. And it's very interesting to see how that person reacts when you approach it differently, with a sense of spaciousness rather than with a disciplinarian sense. It's not to say that you can't talk to somebody like about problematic behavior patterns, but I find more and more that if I model behavior and if I work with people in a certain way, relating with their goodness basically, they respond. I'm still kind of learning it.
Yeah.
This season has been a big turning point for me with that. I still can't quite believe it.
Yeah, I interviewed Jane yesterday.
Jane's another person who does that.
Yeah. And the same kind of conversation came up, and I mentioned this quote to her by the author of Little Prince. You know, the Little Prince?
Saint Antoine Exupéry.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And you may know the quote, but Trump Rinpoche loved that author as well.
Yeah.
And the quote is, if you want to teach men to sail, to, you know, trim the sails and do all the work on the deck and do all the technical stuff like gardening, don't teach them all that stuff, or don't yell at them to do it. Instead, teach them a longing for the sea.
Yeah, that's a good quote.
Will take care of itself.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like if you appeal to someone's goodness instead of cracking the whip, they know you want to crack the whip and you're not doing it.
Yeah.
You're giving them a chance and you're saying, but you're not being wimpy either, you're calling them on it.
And they begin to establish, for me with the garden, I've seen it with many people in different operations, because I've worked, you know, for a number of different growing operations from when I was a kid, especially once I started managing. I've been managing for about 8 years. In the spring, there's often, especially when people are learning the work, they're not familiar with working with their body, and there's definitely like an early wall, like a wall they hit early on where they lose a lot of motivation. But once the stuff that they planted starts to come in, and once they kind of start seeing the fruition, or the path at least, you know, they begin to build that relationship. And so that's another thing Alan Chadwick in that quote, he says, you know, he is not doing the teaching, rather he is exposing a teaching and facilitating the student's ability to learn from the garden itself, because the garden itself is the teacher, and the gardener, when they're training someone, is merely kind of facilitating that relationship and trying to allow that person they're teaching, trying to teach them how to communicate most directly, which is most cases just getting out of the way, building that longing for the sea.
And it really does work, right? You have good soil out here. You have good food come out of here.
We grow a lot of food.
How much do you feed? How much of Karme Choling is fed off of this?
Well, right now we're doing like everything. That won't last that much longer. This program's tapping us out. Family camp was like a band of locusts coming through, but it's great. That's why we grow.
Yeah.
Last year, we have a 12-member CSA. This generates about $5,000.
Like from people outside?
Local Sangha, basically.
Cool.
And then last year, I think we did, when I estimated, we did about $17,000 of produce for the kitchen. And then we did about $3,000 in flowers for Ikebana. And then we had our CSA at about $5,000. So the value last year was about $25,000 for the garden in terms of food and flower production.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good for an acre.
1 acre.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm always hesitant to quantify in that way, because every time somebody walks in this garden, what does that give? A lot of this garden is about creating a place of beauty, and
and practice.
It's a shrine. I mean, it's a shrine room. It's an offering to the natural world.
And it's a point of pride. I mean, Jane and everyone talks about it all the time.
Yeah.
Or a point of joy or something. Well, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Appreciate it.
Happy to talk.